Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies, inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Print management, document management. It is peak printer mismanagement season. Everybody's printing out a bracket. Get control of it.
Even better, everybody's printing out taxes.
No, that's true too.
That time, Joe.
That's true too. That's true too.
That time.
So go to copiers-plus.com to get a handle on your print management needs. I think, speaking of getting a handle on things, I feel like the national media needs to get a grip.
Whoa.
What the hell happened yesterday?
We got a lot of mad people out there. It's a nice spectrum, though. I kind of like that.
Well,
I kind of like, we got a little Stephen A. We got a little Shay Shay. We got Clay Travis. We got Dan Dockich. We got the governor of West Virginia out here breaking down quads.
But you know what my favorite part about yesterday was? It wasn't all those things that you just mentioned.
No?
It wasn't John Fanta going on Fox saying it was a crime. Okay. No.
What was Rothstein? A miscarriage of justice?
We'll get to those clips. My favorite part about Carolina getting into the NCAA tournament is that I feel like you were the one lone man in a sea of media takes. And it put North Carolina fans in a position to go, oh no, are we turning into the Onion headline? Heartbreaking. The worst person you know just made a great point. And so many Carolina fans were retweeting or resharing the clip that I put out about here are the two reasons why Carolina's in the NCAA tournament. It is your strength of schedule and not doing anything stupid in the conference tournaments. Like, oh, by the way, West Virginia did by losing to that Colorado team. You can't do that in that situation when the whole entire committee is watching. You can't do that.
Together.
They're going, oh, this is the team we're supposed to put in? Huh.
Like, I get the outrage. I do. I really do. And maybe under different circumstances, I'd be on the other side of this fence.
Maybe.
But as I told you, while we were in Charlotte, and even before we got to Charlotte, as Patrick Stevens from the Washington Post was joining us, like, you cannot go 0-1 in your conference tournament. And when all of those dominoes started to fall in Carolina's favor, that was a good thing. Now you add in the second real fact here. If you're going to add wins over bubble and you're going to add new metrics, well, in year one of those new metrics, I know, Debbie, I was about to yell at me about the net, but if you're going to add new metrics, they're going to use the new metrics.
Yes.
So really, it just seems, I know there are some people who are like, there's no logical way to defend this. And it's like, well, no, actually there is.
There are, I think that's the part that broke me. Carolina breaks all national media.
Bubba Cunningham is crooked and he got a bonus and this and that. And it's like,
okay, so the bonus thing, right? So I got a lot of people saying, well, this is all about making sure that corruption doesn't happen. Y'all. Yeah.
The bracket is where you want to make sure corruption.
That's where you want to start.
Line you want to draw.
This is the thing.
This is the hill.
It's it's March 18th. We're 3 months into this.
This is the hill.
But this is it.
I got you.
So 3 months of headlines. 3 months of headlines. And now this no. This is about people lining their pockets on the corrupt. Oh, really? This is what's got you fired up, right? I think that's the part that got me, is that people who should know better. It's one thing if Stephen A's got a beef. It's another one you got people who should know better, not understanding that the very thing you asked for is being used, and now suddenly you have a problem with it. And that is in relation to what you just referred to, WAB, wins above bubble. When you start opening up the data, when you add more data into the mix and you have more things to look at, you end up being able to come up with different conclusions. If you're using the archaic stuff, I mean, for heaven's sake, how many times do we have to explain that RPI was a terrible metric? And RPI for the longest time was a thing that was feeding into net.
RPI was based on where the game was played. Basically, that was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
Right? So now that we have better data, you can make better decisions. And now that you have more data, and you're presenting it to a wider group of people, they're going to come to some different conclusions too, based on how things are now versus how they were then. And I think that's probably the thing that's bothered me the most is like the John Fanta, the John Rothsteins, the freaking Jerry Palms of the world, the Joe Lunardis of the world. It's like, y'all do this for a living. Not that good at it based on the bracket matrix. And you're supposed to understand that these things are being looked at differently now, and you're still going back to tired talking points from 2 years ago.
Actually, I take it back. Jerry Palm and Joe Lunardi's reaction has actually been my favorite.
Probably.
In all of this.
Yes. Where's the Joe Lunardi? Here's the Joe Lunardi. Yes, North Carolina and Texas have 10 combined Q1 and Q2 wins. Was that really what got them in over the likes of West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio State, and Boise State? West Virginia also had 10 combined Q1, Q2 wins. Indiana, Ohio State both had 9. Boise had 8. Not enough of a difference from my seat. The question should always be, what message is being sent to the schools for future tournaments? Does it matter if a team equals a record of most losses for an at-large team as long as it wins big games, Texas, or do teams not even need to worry about winning games if the schedule is hard enough, UNC? It's not why I'm not wild about rewarding either path, but I'm appalled at rewarding both. Appalled, Joe. Appalled. Meanwhile, we've got John Fanta. Let me see if I can pull up this clip. What do we got here from Fanta? This thing was a doozy. Where'd it go? Where's all my stuff here? Here we go. Here's Fanta on Breakfast Ball on Fox Sports 1.
Carolina being in the NCAA tournament is a crime. They had 2 wins over the field, one of which came over American. They had 1 win over a high major team in the field, and that came against UCLA in a game that UCLA gave away. If you're going to hand a team that is 2-10 against teams in the field a bid to the NCAA tournament, what are we doing here?
All right, that's Fanta. Here's Rothstein on CBS immediately following the selection show. He's on the CBS Sports Network. And again, he's going back to that talking point about quad 1 wins.
I say this to Gary a lot, especially the last few days. You're a better man than I am, because I'm going to talk about the bad right now, and I'm going to talk about it emphatically. If the criteria for the NCAA tournament in terms of getting an at-large bid is to beat other NCAA tournament teams if you're on the bubble, how in the world could North Carolina get an at-large bid over Indiana and over West Virginia? Indiana, unlike North Carolina, has no quad 3 and 4 losses. Indiana went on the road to East Lansing and beat Michigan State, who's a 2 seed, and beat Purdue on its home floor, who is a 4 seed in this bracket. And Indiana did not get in the NCAA tournament. Then let's talk about West Virginia. West Virginia won a game at Allen Fieldhouse. West Virginia beat Gonzaga on a neutral court. It beat Arizona on a neutral court. It also beat Iowa State. And North Carolina is in over those 2 teams. I'm just waiting for somebody to say, we got some swamp water to sell you in Florida. That's how I feel right now. Now, with that said, I want to bring this in. North Carolina not deserving to be in has no bearing on how the Tar Heels could play in the bracket.
That's right.
Look at VCU in 2011.
That was my favorite part. We have positioned North Carolina into nobody believed in us. We have positioned this blue blood, Michael Jordan, right? Multiple national championships, Dean Smith, Roy Williams, the list goes on, the family. Nobody believed in us. Those plucky upstart Tar Heels in Chapel Hill, Joe, same level as VCU. You might as well put them up there with Butler as well. Can Cinderella do it, Joe? Will somebody in Chapel Hill go, man, we're just out here surviving and advancing? Can we get this?
Well, they tried that 1 year, and I would not let them get away with it.
Can we do it again? Can we try this again?
I'm just mad. With OG dollars, I purchased a Nothing Easy Carolina shirt because I had to have one. I just wish I had it for tonight's game. That is my only regret, is I do not have it as we speak. So listen, I get it that people, we've talked a lot about you get in the tournament based on who you beat that's in the field.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sitting here disputing that.
And Carolina doesn't have a lot of those wins.
West Virginia's resume is without the injury, and I know they've played a lot without their injured player.
I mean, it's been since December since he got hurt. That's the one thing in the messaging that I actually do not agree with. That injury happened in December.
That's fair. I'm just saying West Virginia's resume is one that belongs in the NCAA tournament. But that doesn't mean this kind of piggybacks off my idea of we keep acting like and John Rothstein's number one guilty of this, that you can't expand the tournament because it's perfect how it is, blah, 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 blah. My idea of expanding the tournament is letting all of these teams play Give me a UAB who lost to Memphis in the American Athletic. Give me more teams like that. Give me an extra week of basketball, and more is better. That's all. The tournament itself, the beauty of the tournament is the format. It's not the number of teams in the field. So they're indirectly kind of arguing for me here that, give me more of these teams. Let me see what West Virginia's got.
I would argue you go back to 64, number one.
Well, they're never going back.
They're never going to do that. So fine, we get the date and we get the first four. I would rather, do we really need 14 SEC schools in the NCAA tournament?
They were good enough to make it.
Ones with losing conference records and everything else. I mean, that's the thing that actually would bother me more. It bothers me more that you got 14 schools out of a conference. Now, some of that has to do with the fact that the conferences have ballooned over the last several years.
Still only 14 and 18, right?
But still, 14
and 16. 14
out of your 16 are getting in? There's no way. There's just no way. That's the thing that I would probably be more bothered by. But the thing about
your conference record doesn't matter. It never has.
No, that's not true, because back in the day, having a winning record in the ACC pretty much guaranteed that you were getting into the NCAA tournament.
It wasn't part of the criteria. It just happened to be if you beat enough good teams from your conference, you get in.
Okay.
That's all.
Well, what happens when you don't beat enough good teams from your conference and you got a losing record? What still makes you get in? You see what I'm saying?
Well, you want to talk about Oklahoma or Texas, or who do you want to talk about?
I mean, there's any number of them, but Texas probably being the one of them. But actually, you know what, though? I'm not going to. Okay. I'm not going to.
Just saying, Oklahoma beat Michigan. Oklahoma beat Arizona. They beat Louisville.
Here's what it comes down to.
They beat good teams.
Here's what it comes down to. Since West Virginia has become the one that everybody is aggrieved by. That's the one that everybody's mad about. And I didn't like the messaging from Bubba Cunningham as it relates to the DeVries injury, because again, it happened back in December.
Mm-hmm.
But as Patrick Stevens pointed out, they're 8-11 after January 4th. That's not necessarily great. And when you look at their metrics, as he points out, West Virginia was not exactly a metrics darling, between 42nd and 53rd in 6 of the 7 team sheet rankings. We are arguing and losing our minds over mid teams. We are discussing teams that are on the bubble. You have opened yourself up to a situation where I can look at whatever data I want now that we have more of it and come to my conclusion. For the record, I think more data is good because it gets and I think that's probably the thing that's bothered me the most in all of this. Folks have been complaining about the arbitrary nature of quad 1 wins for 5 years now?
As long as we've had quads.
We have argued quads are dumb. They're arbitrary. Don't believe me? Let's look at the team sheets between West Virginia and NC State, shall we? So when you look at those things, you've got, if you're watching on YouTube, I got both of them up. These are from Warren Nolan, the team sheets from Warren Nolan, to make it abundantly clear in visual form what these things look like, right? So North Carolina went 1-12 overall in their quad 1 games, whereas West Virginia went 6-10 in their quad 1 games. If you just go straight raw number, they're 6-10, you're 1-12, therefore they're better than you. Well, then yes. But as we have discussed over the last 5 years, the arbitrary nature of quad 1 versus quad 2 drove people nuts, because not all
it used to be top 50 or top 100.
Top 100.
There's a lot of 100. Yeah.
So
that's what if you want to combine Q1, Q2,
yeah,
it's basically top 100.
So what happens with the quad 1s is you basically treat every quad 1 opportunity as the same. They're not the same.
Right.
So all you got to do, if you don't believe me, is look at these 2 sheets and tell me who had quad 1 opportunities that were much harder than the other. And if you look at the team sheets and you tell me that West Virginia found itself in an equal situation with quad 1 opportunities in North Carolina, then you are certifiably insane. North Carolina, in their quad 1 opportunities, had to play Duke 3 times. The Ken Pom darling, every metric thing that you use, Duke is usually 1 or 2. They're a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Auburn, the overall number 1 seed in the tournament. Florida, a team they should have beaten, a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Alabama, at home, they got beat. Fine, so be it. But again, that's the number 2 team. That's a 2 seed, I should say, in the NCAA tournament. when you look at the totality of West Virginia's quad ones, they are not the same thing.
I think we just stumbled upon something here.
And that is
the rivalry. The real reason that Carolina got in. They took care of business in the rivalry against Pitt. West Virginia did not. So that's what this all came down to. I wish Bubba Cunningham would have been on CBS saying, well, we have this rivalry because West Virginia people would have lost their mind, their actual rival Pitt. But yeah, that must be it. That must be it. One beat Pitt and one didn't.
That's what it all comes down to. And of course, you have the West Virginia governor all mad. Look, man, we're recording this before we're getting ready to go over to the governor's mansion to go pick teams to go do the Josh Stein bracket reveal. We're going to keep that thing going. Look, man, it's one thing to do a bracket with a governor.
Yeah.
That's relatable content.
Sure.
And everybody's filling out a bracket. Give me your hot takes, right?
But you have to say what the billboard is.
It's to hold a press conference, promote it. I'm going to be on X telling you the corruption. And the sign reads National Corrupt Athletic Association. I mean, why didn't you just download the image from our guys Chapel Thrill and have the NCAA logo that says scam on it while you're at it?
Yep.
You might as well go all in on that, right? So the governor gets up on there and he just starts talking ball, baby.
Quad one wins. And that was combined with an undefeated record against quad 3 and quad 4 opponents. 3 wins against top 10 teams and the 24th toughest schedule in America. West Virginia deserved to be in the NCAA tournament. This was a miscarriage of justice and robbery at the highest levels. Now, who was the last team to get into the tournament ahead of the Mountaineers? That would be the University of North Carolina. Now, let's see how their resume stacks up. The Tar Heels went 1-12 in quad 1 games and even had a quad 3 loss. And we keep hearing about the importance of these quad 1 wins, but UNC couldn't even get 6 quad 1 wins. And that was combined with an undefeated record against quad 3 and quad 4 opponents. 3 wins against top 10 teams and the 24th toughest schedule in America. West Virginia deserved to be in the NCAA tournament. This was a miscarriage of justice and robbery at the highest levels. Now, who was the last team to get into the tournament ahead of the Mountaineers? That would be the University of North Carolina. Now, let's see how their resume stacks up. The Tar Heels went 1-12 in quad 1 games and even had a quad 3 loss. And we keep hearing about the importance of these quad 1 wins, but UNC couldn't even get.
I mean, I just love that he has enough time to break down quads when last time I checked,
they even had a quad 3 loss. At some point, I guess I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to go through all the criteria because it still applies.
Yeah.
It's extreme numbers. It's bad losses. Losing to Boston College hurt Boise State. Losing to Stanford at home is not a bad loss. It's not an extreme number. Nothing in Q3 is extreme.
Joe.
Okay.
You know what? Who cares? You shouldn't have to explain these things to the West Virginia governor. The West Virginia governor should be more concerned with what are your quads when it comes to state indicators? Look like you're a Q4 team when it comes to critical state indicators. There's probably quad 1 through 4. Last time I checked, West Virginia is probably a quad 5 when it comes to in-state poverty. Okay? Like, buddy, do you really think your constituents care about whether or not West Virginia got into the NCAA tournament
Somebody
over
cares.
North Carolina? I'm not saying nobody cares. I'm just saying, like,
up.
hey, man, like, I'm guessing that sign probably cost some taxpayer dollars. It's not like he gave his personal credit card to somebody to say, hey, go to Kinko's and go get me this sign. Thanks. That's coming out of taxpayer dollars, man. Come on now. I swear, man, Carolina broke people. Absolutely broke people. And I think the most hilarious part of this was I got this alert yesterday. Stephen A. Smith does not approve of UNC getting into the NCAA tournament. And Stephen A. Smith says that Tar Heels being in the tournament is, quote, disgraceful. I like Stephen A. And I was listening to Unsportsmanlike because I usually have it on the TV when I'm making coffee and stuff like that, their national sports talk show with Evan Cohen. And Evan just straight up says, did you guys know this thing called WOB? Do you know what it stands for? Like, he had never heard of it before. It's like wins over bubble? Is it wins above bubble? I don't know. There's this new metric called WOB. It's not new, but whatever. They're just including it, right? And as I'm watching this unfold on ESPN. I see the Stephen A. Smith clip, and he's essentially reading a stat pack that some intern put together back in Bristol that they send out in an email every day. I used to get those stat packs back in the day. I know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
He's dropping something. Do you know that North Carolina's 300 and whatever and defensive efficiency or whatever it is? And I'm like, oh man, somebody sent you that stat pack, didn't they? Congrats for reading that one for the first time. Like, how far do you think Stephen A. gets in that email? You got the NFL, we got the NBA. Oh, we're getting college basketball. Nah, I'm done scrolling here. I'm done scrolling here. And again, I'm not saying this in a way that is belittling Stephen A. Smith. The man gets paid a lot of money for a reason. He's really good at his job. But what we're seeing here is a byproduct of national, especially when it comes to ESPN, putting so many of their eggs in the NFL basket.
I was going to say, they didn't want to talk about college basketball. Now they do.
Now all of a sudden you do.
Okay.
So you've spent all of late February and March coming up and inventing NFL storylines. Like, would you rather have Caleb Williams or Cam Ward right now?
Who has more pressure to win in November?
Right.
Okay.
Do I need an Aaron Rodgers update? No, I don't.
No, okay.
No, I'm good. Thank
Solid.
you. I'm good on that one. Now, so we're in this really weird spot right now where the national media has spent so much freaking time talking about the NFL, going in an NFL draft mode, or talking about things that, for goodness sake, save them for July. Like, you're already in off-season protocols in March.
Yeah.
When you've got so many other things going on. So when Stephen A. Smith pops up on my television,
I guess we should say thank you because they're not covering it and paying attention. So we are, and it helps us.
no, it's good for the podcast at the end of the day. So you spent all this time not talking about basketball. So I'm supposed to take you seriously now when you say it's a disgrace that he's not in. But this is also classic NCAA stuff, man. We were talking to Chip Patterson from CBS Sports up here recently, and it's like the college football playoff. You're going to spend a few days complaining about who got in and who didn't get in. And then once the ball is tipped, guess what we're not talking about anymore? Now, if I'm Carolina, you know what you got to do, right?
Oh, you got to make a run.
You better freaking win.
You got to make a run.
You better freaking win.
Path is
man.
open too now.
Yeah, man. You better win. That's all I'm saying. Of course, every time we talk about the ACC, it's brought to you by Keller Williams. Check them out online. Keller Williams Commercial. TriangleNCCommercial.com is the website. The Donnelly team, Brian, Julie, I don't know. They might have a warehouse space for us to stack all these terrible national takes from Stephen A. and Fanta and everybody else. Got a spot for that.
I think it was Mark Packer who had the North Carolina tissues for all yesterday. We should invest in those.
He did. Packer with the you can't take the radio man out of Packer.
Yeah,
that was such
playing
a
the hits, baby.
That was such a radio hit, man. That was so good from Packer. Good for him. So check out TriangleNCCommercial.com or call him directly at 919-616-8681 to crystallize this. I want to run this back and forth between Matt Norlander and Bubba Cunningham, the AD at North Carolina. And Norlander asked in a very smart way, you can't talk about North Carolina, but you can talk about Xavier and how they got in with very similar quad one lack of wins. And I thought Bubba's answer essentially crystallizes what we're saying. It's not just about quad ones anymore.
Let's dig in a little bit more here. North Carolina and Xavier each only had one quad one win. There are teams that were left out of the field like West Virginia, Boise State, Indiana. These teams easily outpaced them. From the discussions, take us into the room, gentlemen. And I know, Bubba, you can't with Carolina specifically, but you can with Xavier. What are the talking points that, in both of your opinions, and Bubba, I'll tee up with you to go into Xavier, that led to these teams clearing the field while other teams that had more heft at the top of their resume did not?
Well, I think when you say that, I think you're kind of zeroing in on quad one wins. And what the committee looks at is a whole series of metrics. And we're looking at the ones that we traditionally looked at, both the predictive and the results. This year we added Torvik, we added the WAB. So there's a lot of different opinions. There's certainly 12 different members representing schools and conferences across the country. So the diversity of opinion, I think, is reflected in the teams that were selected. And that's really where I think it came down, is a personal opinion on what's most important to you when you're evaluating a team.
So that's Bubba's response, and I thought it was a very good response. And it gets back to what we were saying earlier. We have spent the better part of 5 years complaining about the arbitrary nature of quad ones. Now quad ones are being used as the gospel truth to get you in and leave Carolina out. You can't ask for more data. The last 5 years, you can't act like a ball knower saying, well, if you looked at Ken Palm, if you looked at free Ken Palm, Bart Torvik, well, if you would just look at wins above bubble, which is the true measure of what bubble teams are doing versus other bubble teams, you would know that those quad one wins aren't as valuable as you're trying to make them out to be. So we spent 5 years complaining. We need more data. You now have more data, which gives you a much better informed decision process. It spits out a team that actually is favored in those data points that people have been complaining about. Like, we need these. We want this data. Please give us. You have to make the right decisions. Get all the data. And then when it comes back and it gives you the team you don't want in because the old metrics would have favored your team, you see where we have a problem? You see where we have a problem? All this is to say, I was going to curse, and I'm trying not to curse.
Oh,
I'm trying not to curse.
we're about to see the governor mode. So we're like getting in the right shape. I like that.
Just pick something. Just pick something and stick with it. Okay? Just consistency.
But
I know.
that is this, but in all honesty though, that is the selection process.
I know.
1 year, it might be, hey, your quad one was this. 1 year, it might be, hey, we put an emphasis on this, right? So by introducing these new numbers, I mentioned this before in 2019 when I said Debbie Yow's going to scream at me. 2019, they introduced the net. NC State was 33 in the net and didn't get in. And it was like, well, why do you have this metric if you're not going to use it?
Right.
Right. And so, it's a sorting tool. It's a point of comparison. It's this, it's that. And it's like, well, fine. But don't make a big deal about having this new number and then not using it. So I think this is just a process of them also learning from past mistakes. But you got to remember, next year it could change too. Right. Like, I mean, we can all sit here and say X, Y, and Z. I got my rules and I try to tell people, I promise you going 0-1 in your conference tournament, it's going to hurt you every single time with every committee, in part because they are watching these games together. Legitimately, they are sequestered in Indianapolis watching these games together. So it's going to be really hard to shake watching a team lose to Colorado together and then sit there and get in a room and be like, well, that team we just watched that just lost to like, I definitely want them.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not saying it's completely fair because you're supposed to judge the whole entire body work of the season. But ultimately, you're talking about different people, different years, different numbers, different sets of criteria. I wish there was like a hard and fast rule, but that's not how college sports works. It's just not.
Housekeeping. And it's brought to you by Enovana. Check them out online at enovana.com. Green cleaning solutions. Joe, you'll be happy to know that Enovana is at the house right now.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
As our friends at Home Field like to call it, it is third month mania. So therefore, we are also caught up in third month mania. We just got back from the ACC tournament. We're doing crazy things like going to the governor's mansion to do some more brackets. We'll have an after dark tonight following Carolina, San Diego State. There are so many people that I've heard from that are actually rooting for Carolina tonight who wouldn't normally root for Carolina tonight because of all the things that we just talked about with the media, that I think it's hilarious. So we'll be at it tonight on the After Dark. And then on Thursday, we are going to be in Wrightsville Beach. It's slushy time at Jimmy's in Wrightsville. We will be doing OG Live, 2 o'clock. from Jimmy's. If you happen to be in the Wilmington area, the Wrightsville area, come on by. You're in Carolina Beach, come on by. We'll be broadcasting live starting at 2:00. Are you going to be hammered, Joe?
No, because I have to drive back.
You'll at least have a slushie, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You can handle one, right? I mean, come on. When in Rome. Hey. So yeah, come on
I'm
by, say hello.
I'm ecstatic for this.
It should be fun.
Yeah.
Weather could be gorgeous too. Can't wait.
Is it?
I think so, yeah. Ooh, hold on a second. Let
Are
me
we gonna have a polar plunge? Pre-game polar plunge?
I don't know. I don't know about all that.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about all that, but hold on a second. No, I don't need Disney World weather. Did you know that my weather app has an automatic thing for Disney because I'm a sicko like that? Are you surprised by that?
Does not surprise me.
Thursday. Oh no, chance of rain, high is 68. Oh man. But you know what? It'll be warm inside with all the slushies. Having a good time.
Perfect.
We are actually running out of time for the Hungover Wolf. Year of the Hangover is about to wrap up. You've had your hair of the dog. You've had your recovery drinks. You've had all that you've had a big old greasy biscuit. You're finally getting over that hangover, which means we're about to close up the shop. So look at the podcast description. Look at the YouTube description. You will see the link to the Year of the Hangover Drunk OG shirt. It was originally priced at $83, but the Comfort Colors pocket tee with the OG flag, we've reduced it to $35.
Perfect.
And then we got next level shirts, a charcoal and a heather gray or a heather red for $25. This is wrapping up soon.
I was gonna say, don't wrap it up before I need to make a couple purchases.
We'll get on it because the store is closing. And once the shirts go away, they go away
Forever.
They go into the vault with the hats. So get on it now, ladies and gentlemen. Big thanks to our friends at Miller Lending. Check out Miller Lending, Gordon and the crew at Miller Lending, locally based. They've been local for years, for decades. This is important because they understand the changing dynamics of this housing market. They also understand your needs. So you're looking at the interest rates and you're thinking to yourself, well, I mean, they're still relatively high to where they were, say, 5 years ago. This is true. I mean, look, we're not going to sugarcoat it. The rates aren't at those lows that we saw about 5 years ago. But you know what has changed in the last 5 years? Your situation. You might be looking at a home remodel that you've been wanting to do, and you got to use the equity in your home to do that. Well, do a no closing cost mortgage with our friends at Miller Lending. No upfront cost. And if you want to get out of that, if you want to change it again in a couple of years, you can. Because typically, people are refinancing about every 4 years. If you were to buy down the rate with closing costs, it takes you about 8 years to break even on that. See where the math ain't mathing on that? And also, I would add that the interest rates are a hell of a lot lower than your credit cards. So if you're trying to consolidate debt, that's another reason to refinance. So check out millerlending.com or go directly to the website with our landing page, millerlending.com/theOG. You can also call them at 919-447-3377. And that is NMLS 250-2146. Let's say you have decided to refinance with our friends at Miller Lending. You know where you can close this thing?
Whitaker and Hamer.
Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law. So contact them. WH.lawyer. They can do simple things like that. They can handle some of your business needs. It's all at WH.lawyer. Speaking of homes, I feel like this is an EGOT, right? You're going to buy a home through My Hometown Realty, myhtr.com. Locations all across. They got agents everywhere. So you buy a home with myhtr.com. You finance it with Miller Lending, and then you go to Whitaker and Hamer to close it. Does this not sound brilliant to you?
Even better, after Whitaker and Hamer, you can go get ice cream at Two Roosters to celebrate.
You celebrate that way, right? See how simple that is? So go to tworoosters.com. Speaking of mania, every month they got something new that causes Giglio to go into mania.
Genius.
What do they got today now?
He's actually a genius. The March flavors, the Bananas Foster is in the Mount Rushmore of Jared flavors.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
I have not had that yet.
It's great.
So I'll have to check that out. So go to tworoosters.com.
You would think I would tell you the cannoli. You would think. Just out of like reflex. But
no.
I like the cannoli, but it's more of just a pistachio. It's really just pistachio.
Oh, I see.
You see what I'm saying?
I got you.
But the Bananas Foster concoction, I mean, I don't know how he did it. Well, again, I don't know how he does it.
Speaking of the pistachio and all that kind of stuff, it's time to do that Cuban coffee cannoli. Because there's a guy on TikTok that confused you for me, and they're like, "Hey, man, the Cuban has 8 ounces of Grecian formula in his hair right now."
Oh, yeah.
He confused who was who.
Who was who?
I thought that was kind of funny.
We got some haters.
Oh, we got
a couple of haters.
It's fine. It's whatever. We all got haters. TwoRoosters.com. You know who doesn't have haters? I mentioned it. Third Month Mania is going on right now. Home Field Apparel. Nobody hates Home Field. Their hoodies are amazing.
I just want to tip my cap to Josh and the crew for Third Month Mania. If you don't know, radio, TV, there's copyrights on all March Madness and all this other nonsense. They get very protective of such things, as if you can copyright a month. But here we are. Kelly can probably explain this better than I could.
Yes.
So to go with Third Month Mania is just sweet perfection.
So head on over to homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code. It goes beyond just all the basketball. They got this incredible Hendrick Motorsports collection. They got an Earnhardt collection. It is really sweet stuff with those throwbacks. The heavyweight tees.
You were saying to me shooting shirts, and I wasn't really processing what you were saying.
Like the old school warm up.
Like they are like 1980s, 70s, 80s warm ups of your favorite college. They're fantastic.
Pristine. Fantastic stuff. So head on over to homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code OG24. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline is our friend Sara Civian. Check out her newsletter, covers the NHL, and she spent a considerable amount of time with probably the most enjoyable run of Carolina Hurricanes hockey we've had outside of a Stanley Cup. It's Sara Civian. Civ, what up?
Yeah, everything was beautiful and nothing hurt. We've come a long way since, for better or for worse. Now you just expect the team to win. So we'll get into that, of course. I'm great. How are y'all?
We're good. We're also excited that you're going to be joining us on April 15th at the Rialto. The Scalar brothers are going to be at the Rialto. That is the big headliner on April 15th. So go to therialto.com right now to go buy your tickets. It is called Balls versus Cancer. Our guy Richard's helping out with this, and we needed an opener, right? So, Dimitri comes out to us like, all right, we got the Scalar brothers coming to town. It's a fundraiser. It's going to be a good time. You guys got to open. What are you going to do? Man, I don't know. Let's do some hockey. Let's bring Civ back to town. So you're going to be here for some old stories, some bunch of jerks story time, right?
Yes, I love to tell stories of the jerks, and it'll be my first time back since I left 5 years ago. So I am absolutely pumped. And my dad was starstruck that I was going to be doing something with the brothers, and as was I. So thanks for letting me be a part of it. But I am absolutely pumped to talk hockey right before the playoffs.
Yes, I love it. Actually, you just put on your newsletter who's in and who's out on the Eastern Conference. I just saw that hit my inbox. I have not had a chance to read it yet, but I'm assuming we're not sweating the Carolina Hurricanes right now, right?
No. I think all the locks are going to make it. Hot take. I think CBJ is sneaking in there. I still believe in the vibes.
So the vibes around the Hurricanes, and this is why originally I wanted to bring you on, because I want a little bit of outside perspective, but also with somebody who understands a good core group of that room still and understands Rod Brindamore and what he's trying to do. It's been, 2 weeks now since the Mikko Rantanen stuff? And we're still dealing with the aftermath of it. Canes fans are still salty about it. The agent and Mikko can't seem to be getting on the same page as to what the messaging is. And the Canes have now won, 7 in a row. And they've looked really good without him. So I feel like this is Mikko got it wrong, but Mikko was, this whole thing was a mess, but maybe the Hurricanes finally figured out after chasing the big fish in the trade pool that, you know what, maybe we have a type and he's not our type.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, they're back to their bread and butter with a player that is young under contract. And that's just kind of what they are so good at. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here, and you can change asset for asset, I guess. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like this is the original plan, right? The original plan was to keep Mikko Rantanen, but it's also just so fascinating with the drama surrounding it all, and that he can't keep his foot out of his mouth. And it kind of, part of it is the language barrier, right? You go on these Finnish shows and you do these Finnish reports, and it's funny when Aho does it because he's never doing anything wrong. You know what I mean? So it's like the funny quotes that come out of there from the language barrier are just tongue in cheek. But when there's a language barrier with a player like this, and every word can be misconstrued. That's kind of what I feel is happening. But I wish he would just kind of be like, you know what? I love being a Dallas Star, but that's just not what's happening. Meanwhile, what? The Hurricanes have won 6 or 7 in a row. You see a guy like Seth Jarvis give one of his post games where he's like, you know what? We're focused on what's happening in here and what we can do. And you remember the Seth Jarvis homegrown type is their bread and butter. And you go back to that cycle and they're winning and they look great. So what are you going to do?
Civ, I can't help but look at the East, and every time I go watch the Canes, I'm worried about goaltending. I'm worried about the power play. Some things never change, right? But then I look at the East, and I'm like, no, wait a second. Who are the Canes supposed to be scared of in the East? It just feels like the East is, and I know what Florida did, and they'll have Voltron come the playoffs, but it just kind of feels like the East is open for the taking, right?
I mean, every time I think I'm scared of the Leafs, they completely fall apart. And you're like comparing them to a team like the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes are always getting consistently better after they have a bad streak. And I feel like, I mean, the Capitals have great vibes. You give it to them, but then the Panthers as well. Then you look at the rest, and it really kind of is the Devils are falling apart. I mean, no, there's not a better vibe than the top heaviness. And I think the Hurricanes are one of the top heavy teams.
Sara Civian joining us here on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. All right, back to the Canes, and I get Joe's point about the scariness aspect of it. I do want to get your opinion on goaltending. We talked to Eric Tulsky after the trade deadline.
No, the original.
Or the original.
Trade.
Sorry. I'm getting my timeline all mixed up. After the original trade to get Mikko Rantanen, and there was a lot of conversation about goaltending around that time. And Tulsky's overall attitude was, show me the Vezina winner who's won the Stanley Cup. Like, you don't need that level if you can score, right? Now, I don't think it's lost on people that their goaltending has been better down the stretch. Yeah. Do you feel that this is a group, given what we've seen the last couple of years, that truly can get them further into the playoffs?
I think, and what I've always loved out of Kochetkov is he's great when it counts. Like, he's always needed a few more reps to actually prove that in long term. And I think he's been doing that this season, right? Like, he's well above 900 with his 40 games played. I feel like he is ready to see what actually happens. He's got the vote of confidence now. And I think you look at, I mean, Bobrovsky was super hot until he wasn't last season during the Stanley Cup final series. And then he came back when it mattered, though, for game 7. And I do think Kochetkov can do something like that. I think having Anderson behind him doesn't hurt for kind of insurance. I don't know what's up with Anderson ever, but sure. I think the tandem is good enough, if you ask me, and you look at everything else going on.
The way I look at that East shaken out, and maybe I was assuming everyone understood. Florida doesn't have a Tkachuk right now, but they will. They will. And they'll have Marchand with him. How do you think that marriage kind of plays out? Because it does seem like it's that thing could either go bang or bust, right? Yeah. I mean,
right. It's just the brevity of options they have in Florida is unreal. I was watching them against the Leafs the other day, and just they didn't have Tkachuk, they didn't have Marchand, and they still won by the power play. Bennett scores 2 goals in the power play. Then they got Seth Jones making that one play. It's like Ekblad's out, no problem. We signed Seth Jones. It just always is another option in the cupboard. So I think they can make the adjustments accordingly, whether it works or whether it doesn't. And that's why they're so dangerous.
All right. So I'm curious. With the Canes, and I keep getting back to the Mikko Rantanen thing because I'm still fascinated by how this all played out. I'm spinning this forward.
Jankowski is just going to score 100 goals. I mean,
it's the Stank and Jank show, baby. Where are you?
No, it gets back to the do you know what your type is conversation, right? Because I have a feeling that Tom Dundon's going to want to take another swing in the offseason when there's no trade parameters and things like that. They're clearly interested, speaking of Toronto, I mean, they're clearly interested in Mitch Marner, right? But then you go back to the reports of like he wasn't gonna waive the no movement clause to come to Carolina. And I don't know, is there this idea that we've shifted from the Carolina Hurricanes are bad for ratings, right? And that's why you don't want to see them on TV, or you're talking about playoff matchups and people get all caught up in seeing something that might not be there with ESPN coverage, to now that shifting to, well, wait a minute. do big time players do they not want to come here despite the fact that we literally have the money for them? Because Joe and I have talked about this a lot. As Joe likes to say, the cap space can be weaponized. That is an asset for you. But is it much of an asset when the big fish don't want to swim with you, so to speak?
I don't think everything has to be the same thing. And this is where I agree with Tulski's analysis of both Gensel and Rantanen. Obviously, his analysis is what happened, but I mean, like, I believe he's being genuine with the media when he comes on and talks about it. I think Gensel, from what I've heard, I know like people around him pretty well, he really wanted to be with the Hurricanes. But then you look at the Jarvis extension and you look at where the league's headed with cap space. I think not everything has to be the same thing and not everything has to be something. You look at what's going to happen in the offseason and the next few off seasons where the cap's rising. Of course, Rantanen wanted to test the market in some way. I wish he was a little bit more transparent about that. And I think all these big free agents, it's going to be really hard to have them stay in one place or have them move. I think until the first markets are tested and the first shoes drop, it's going to be really tough to see. I mean, how much is McDavid going to make? 20 mil? We're going to start there and see what happens from there. But it's really not a Carolina Hurricanes problem. It's the cap is rising for the first time significantly since the pandemic and since even the lockout. Like, it's going so much higher than it has been. So I think that just is where agents are coming from.
I don't know, Civ. The internet tells me that the girlfriends and the wives don't want to move here because there's not a Neiman Marcus. That's what I've heard.
There was some truth to that, and he admitted it, right?
Okay.
I think and you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that as a free agent. But he never got, I think he was salty that he never got free agency, where I think the agent has to take some blame for that, where he thought he was calling a bluff when it came to the Avalanche. And then the players now like, wait, all my friends are over here thinking they're going to have their free agencies of a lifetime. This is supposed to be where I can get the most money possible. I need to have some agency as a player. So I do think there was a little bit of salt that happened there where he wanted to make his own, have a little bit of say. And I do think the fiance there is in her own line of work and wanted to have opportunities there. And she's well within her rights to do that. But
I mean,
it's so many
just
factors.
go over to Chapel Hill. Bill Belichick's girlfriend's having a great time.
You know what? That'd be a great resource.
Right?
She could be on Hard Knocks.
Until she wants producer credit.
There we go.
She's out.
I actually think that's the only thread between Gensel and Rantanen. And I've said it many times on this program. If I was an agent and my guy was in his last year about to get to that free agent window, I would not let him sign.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's the similarity, like you said.
I know Dundon feels like he has to get players like that because he probably feels like he can't get them otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And then he feels like if I get you here, you'll see what it is and you'll like it and you'll want to stay here. I think that's kind of his plan. I had a chance to see Tom before the second Rantanen move, and he said, we're going to have so much more cap space next year, because it was after they had said that he was the worst owner, the agent.
Yes, the agents.
And he was like kind of proud of that, actually.
Of course, I can see the smirk now. And here's the thing. I worry because I think you shouldn't be likable to an agent if you're an owner, right? But I also think NHL agents are very petty people, and they will change the way they do business if they don't like you. So I think I fear a situation like that. And they always had Waddell in the back pocket before, where it's like he's a hockey guy, and they loved doing business with him because he's a good boy. He'll pat you on the back or whatever it is. And now they don't have that. They have to be a little careful with the optics.
I think, again, it was just a very brief conversation, but he was like, people don't like me because we had to do some things differently because of where the cap was. He's like, that's not an issue going forward. Like, the cap is about to,
and that gets
be in a
back,
spot that they haven't seen before.
But the issue with it's not an issue. It's just a friction that is created by an agent who's trying to maximize his client's value and also his bottom line with a percentage. And then an owner who, Civ, we know this, wants to feel like he walked away from the deal having won every single time.
And he's like the first one to act like this. So he's a disruptor, right? And people don't like that. People don't know what to do with that. Even if their players are saying, hey, I want to stay with this team. I think this team's legit. I love playing for Rod. I love these guys, whatever it is. I think some agents are uncomfortable doing business with that. And that's the reality of the situation. I think we'll look back in 25 years with the way the world's going, with who's going to own these teams, how teams are constructed. And you'll see more of this. And Dundon was a trendsetter, whether you like it or not.
And we'll close on this because I do think it ties into what Dundon is doing with this franchise. And there was a lot, and you were here for this. There were a lot of new fans for the Carolina Hurricanes after they went a decade without making the playoffs and just kind of being a middling afterthought of a team here in the Triangle after they had won a Stanley Cup and got to an Eastern Conference Finals in 2009. So it's almost like people want to bottle up 2019 all over again, and it's going to be like that forever. But it's not. This is a next evolution of a franchise or an owner who wants to be in a perpetual Stanley Cup window. And that's going to, break a few eggs to make an omelet, so to speak, by trading popular players to go get a player they feel is of much more skill and value to them. It also means changing the building. It's one of those funny things where we want modern amenities, and then when we're shown, well, this is what it's going to take, and this is how it's going to affect you, suddenly we're like, well, wait a minute. I didn't realize my section was going to be taken away. So there's this really interesting kind of inflection point right now with what the Carolina Hurricanes are going to be next. And I think this offseason is probably the most, like, if you didn't understand it this past year, you're really going to understand it this year.
Change is hard, and nostalgia and sports are so tied together, especially in an atmosphere like Raleigh. And in my Substack, we have this group chat, and it's a lot of Hurricanes fans. And one of them brought up a point that, like, I forget sometimes. No matter how much we want to complain about Dundon, which we're also allowed to, and, like, it's not off limits to complain about the rich guy making changes to your team, right? But he could never be worse than Karmanos when it came to certain things and when it came to not being in a position to succeed anyway. I just remember stories some of the guys on the 06 team would tell me about Karmanos, about how they took this picture with, Aaron Ward told me this, it's on the record, that they took a picture, it's his prized possession. It's like of all the families of that 06 team, because they were such a big part of that run. And Karmanos got mad because he was like, I want to take, this is my cup, right? And he thought that the families were getting too much credit. So just, you look at something like that, Dundon would never do that. And just like, he has objectively improved the team in a lot of ways. And the ways he's had to do it have been unconventional. A lot of it's the context. A lot of it is who he is as a businessman. And you can debate about if it was the perfect way to go about it. But the times are a-changing, and the team has not missed the playoffs once.
Sara Civian, check out the Substack, and she's going to be here on April 15th at the Rialto. She's going to help us open up for the Scalar brothers. It is Balls versus Cancer, a night of comedy and sports talk to benefit the American Cancer Society in a fight against testicular cancer.
Can we do some walking bets together at this event, Civ?
Yes, absolutely essential. Please show up, guys. I can't wait to see all of you.
This is why if Civian were making decisions, she'd be like, are you a walkable city? No. I don't want to sign a big free agent contract there. It's that simple.
I told these guys, I'm bringing my hard hat, and I'm going to start constructing the sidewalks myself, and I'm going to remove the cones from the PNC Arena parking lot or the Lenovo Center. Oh my God, it's been so long. Sorry.
I was going to say, you're gonna have to look. It still happens to me. I still want to call it. Sometimes I want to call it the RBC because I'm that old. All right, Civ. We will see you in a couple of weeks. It'll be a lot of fun.
See y'all soon.
We just took a nice hockey break with Sara Civian. Of course, the hockey breaks are brought to you by Happy and Hale.
Let's take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hale.
So we got a promo code with Happy and Hale. Use it, OG25, when you download the app. Screen grab it. Send it to us. Send it to theoggoesdigital@gmail.com. We had somebody DM it to us on Instagram.
Nice.
That's always, we can always use that as well. Either way, just get it to us and you'll be entered to win, Joe, the card.
Your chance to win.
Your chance to win.
Gave another
the
one.
card.
Gave another one on Monday.
Oh, nice.
So
it's a good looking card.
It really is.
And what do you get with that card?
This is the Caleb Love special, the black card for life. 20% off all of your in-store purchases when you go to Happy and Hale.
Big thanks to our friends at O2 Fitness, O2fitnessclubs.com.
O2 Fitness.
as we mentioned, it is more than a gym. Even though the gym is fantastic with great locations, great staff, but there's Renew Physiotherapy to help you out with that achy knee or that destroyed back or the really wonky neck that Giglio has. Perhaps you're looking to make better food choices, change your eating habits. Loop Nutrition can help you with that. And then there's also the simple fact that you get old and things don't really run like they used to. Not losing his weight like you used to. Well, they've partnered with Thrive, local company, livethrive.co, all telehealth. Go online, answer a few questions, and get the process going on things like oral testosterone or weight loss treatments. So hit them up, livethrive.co. Speaking of working out, you want to get a row back for that. I know Giglio's all decked out in the fancy row back. I call that the fancy row back. That's the I'm going out to dinner, or maybe I'm going out to the golf course row back. Maybe I'm going to the governor's mansion row back. But did you know that Rowback has wonderful workout gear? So, rowback.com, use the promo code OG20. It's getting warm outside. Pool season's right around the corner. You're trying to sweat all that stuff off. You're not going to lose the full dad bod.
I got the wolf today.
You do have the wolf today. Very appropriate to go see the Carolina governor. So, use that promo code for the polos, the quarter zips, the AV cart polo, or the gym shorts, which are fantastic. The shirts, which are great to work out in. So again, go to rowback.com, use that promo code OG20. And of course, our friend Matt Davis, State Farm, InsureGarner.com, 919-779-8277. Matt's going to help you save money on home and auto. I feel like Matt could probably be part of our OG corporate champion EGOT, where it's like you're getting your insurance from Matt Davis. You closed your stuff at Whitaker and Hamer. You bought a house with Hometown Realty and you refinanced or financed it with Miller Lending. And then you got your insurance from Matt Davis. There's got to be a shirt for that, right?
Should be. There should be.
Just OG corporate champion supporter.
I think it's Ryan is our number one supporter.
We might just have to do a one-off shirt,
Yeah.
almost like a NASCAR jacket with like all the sponsors on it.
Ooh.
Right?
Whoa.
Right?
Whoa.
We could talk about this.
Whoa.
Do
That's a
all
good
those
idea.
things. Maybe we get you a one-off jacket,
It's
a
actually
very
a
special
really good
jacket.
idea. Because the Canes do that with their Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that one? The leather
I've
Hall of
seen
Fame
that.
one? That's actually really, really nice.
It is nice.
It's like a Letterman's jacket.
So check out Matt Davis and SureGarner.com. Lightning Round brought to you by Sam Jones. I was actually getting into a barbecue conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, look, if you want traditional Eastern-style barbecue the way it's supposed to hit, that you don't have to douse it in a bunch of sauce, you let the meat do the work, Sam Jones is where it's at.
Oh, and I'm telling you, when you go in and you order, I got a text today. Sam Jones, big savings. Here's a $5 coupon off of your purchase of $30 or more. Like, boom.
Love it.
Piece of cake. And that's not because I'm the OG. It's because I go there and eat lunch and they send you stuff. Like, it's that easy.
So let's go to Bill Belichick. It looks like he's enjoying his spring break.
I'm going to try to put on like my grown up. I'm going to try to process all of our, like you're saying, don't swear.
I know.
Like I'm just going to try to have like a straight face.
So
when it comes to all of our Bill Belichick news, like I feel like I need to go in like, the guy from the Daily Show mode. Like I just gosh,
So this is from 2 days ago. Belichick's on the beach with his girlfriend, Jordan. Jordan posts this on Instagram. They're like an adorable couple right now. And he's doing the air.
Are they?
They're doing the airplane. Is this not cute?
He's 72 and she's 24.
Isn't this cute? I remember when I did this with Caleb. I remember when I did this with Jacob when they were toddlers. They really enjoyed it. They had a lot of fun. The giggles. I'm sure. Did you not? Well, no, you probably couldn't do it with your neck. Like you couldn't do the airplane thing with James or Jackson because your neck would probably just give out.
My neck hasn't hurt for 20 years.
I don't know, dude.
Focus.
The way that you act sometimes it feels like it is. But you remember doing this with the kids, right? It was a good time. And then what's a family photo shoot without a little fun and frivolity, some goofiness, right? Because this is you got Fisherman Bill and Mermaid Jordan. Again, this is like Halloween stuff. It's like you're the adult, you're the parent, you got your little outfit, and then the kid's having fun. Buddy, I know you're trying to couch it. I know you're trying to
flip
couch
the
it.
recruit though. They flipped the recruit.
This is some cringy shit.
And they flipped the recruit.
Cool.
They got a defensive tackle from the state of North Carolina.
What?
You're the first Carolina coach ever to get a 4-star recruit from the state of North
No
Carolina
way.
that plays the defensive line. The
No
first.
way. So what do you make of this?
Just keep moving.
Keep moving? You just gonna keep moving on? I think it's cringy, man. Like, I'm watching this stuff and I just want to go back into the time machine and ask old Bill Belichick, but like the Bill Belichick from 5 years ago going, hey man,
Bill Belichick when he still had pride, you mean?
when he still had some pride and he's not doing this kind of stuff and not looking just like, what?
Yeah.
And as I'll say it again, the further we get away from the hiring cycle and we're seeing all this stuff play out, I can see why NFL front offices are going, no, we're not doing that.
Lightning round.
Now, speaking of Bill Belichick, we've got dudes on dudes. We got Julian Edelman. We've got Gronkowski. And I thought this was pretty entertaining back and forth. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Let me turn the audio on.
What I've done for you guys, Jules, I gave you a career. You know, Gronk, I drafted you. I think you guys should come to Chapel Hill and help me out and show these guys how it's done.
He could probably show us a hell of a frat party, I bet.
What do you think a weekend at UNC would look like if we went down there, Jules? I mean, of course, we would hit practice, talk to the guys, all that good stuff. But what do you see? How would it look in your eyes?
I've heard they have a pretty nice library I'd like to go see. I heard it's a beautiful campus, especially with right now in the spring. I bet you it's beautifully popping right now with the trees coming back.
Maybe water some flowers to keep the campus looking beautiful. Plant some trees, Jules.
Or do we just hit frat row and just go crazy with the kids? Beer pong.
That's just called a nice stroll down Franklin Street, Jules.
How do you know?
I know all the good spots.
Chapel Hill, Franklin Street. We'll see you soon.
See, now, I would be here for Gronk sightings in Chapel Hill. Yes, I'm here for this. Please. Yes, please.
We did a Gronk tracker. Could you no, you couldn't hang with Gronk.
No, God, no.
You couldn't hang with me in Charlotte.
No.
I mean, I think
maybe during the day. I can drink during the day.
I think at one point, when the decision was to be made, are we going out? You're like, let's drop by the Airbnb.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you're already in your pajamas. Like I was just grabbing my stuff real quick, grab some water, and then I turn around and you're already in pajama mode. And you're like, no, I'm just gonna snuggle up by my. I'm gonna snuggle up by my phone and look at some lines. Maybe I'll fall asleep.
I have a new thing I like to gamble on: margin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any sport?
Hoops.
All right.
1 through 10, 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 plus.
You couldn't even day drink with Gronk, dude.
No,
there's no way.
But hey, Yo Soy Fiesta. I'd like to see it. I mean, I can still watch.
Just chronicle the thing.
Yeah.
Let the Joe watch Gronkowski get lit. Trying to think where he'd go first. Actually, I would want to see if he can just down a blue cup, just shotgun a blue cup.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he could.
Absolutely.
Edelman probably could too. Hell, Brady could.
apparently
Brady
got a talent for
is an
chugging.
MVP chugger of beer.
Avocado beer now, but
yeah, no, something tells me he still drinks beer from time to time. I want to say he did it on the Late Show once, and it was a disappearing trick. I was shocked at how quick that beer disappeared, man.
Yeah.
So, all right, y'all, any listeners out there in the Chapel Hill area, if there's a Gronk sighting, holler at us. We want to get Joe obliterated with Gronkowski and see where it goes.
We've got a lot to get to. Woo. It's a lightning round.
Wouldn't it have been cooler if they just hired Gronk to be their coach?
It'd certainly be more entertaining at this point and less cringy.
Yeah.
Are we being too harsh on Belichick in this thing? Is it not weird?
No. Well, first of all, I got to get the Carolina people back mad at me, so I got to make sure I'm on track with that because they're happy with me, or they were before today.
Yeah. No, you were just a full-on onion, worst person you know.
Again, I fully expect Bill Belichick against TCU to come out with some formation that no one's ever thought of.
No.
They're gonna run some play that no one's ever done and do all this other stuff.
Stop going to the well on that. Come on now.
No. I think that's what will happen. I also think they'll probably go 8-4, 9-3, and again, I don't think that's why you hired Bill Belichick.
That's not why you did it. There are some people who are still convinced he actually will not coach.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting. I don't know. I mean,
somebody had suggested to me at the rate things are going with the girlfriend and as extremely online as she is, she might
getting CC'd and
and all these other things. She might be like, you know what, this isn't a good fit for you, and he's going to go, okay.
He does seem to have lost his zeal for independent thinking. I'll put it that way.
Very interesting. Anyway, that's not why we moved on in the lightning round. The reason why we moved on in the lightning round is because the baseball season started up in Tokyo.
Are you sure?
Yeah, dude. It was a regular season game. I was shocked when I saw that this morning. I'm like,
are you sure?
Yeah, the Dodgers are in Tokyo.
I saw it on my my app this morning, but I didn't think it was major. I didn't think it was regular season.
No, it was. This is from This is from Tim Keown on ESPN. Los Angeles Dodgers opening day 4-1 win over the Cubs in Tokyo.
Okay.
Ohtani saying he was a little nervous to be playing a game. Took me 4 or 5 innings to get comfortable.
Tokyo Series Game 1. So we got the Cubs and the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Dodgers going to go 162-0 is the question. Do you think I'm kidding?
I don't think the translator's got money on it.
I am not kidding.
No, they're not going to do that.
Can they win 100? What's the record?
Is it
108?
10? I thought it was 110. Is it not 110 with Seattle? It's something like that, right?
I'm going to bet on it right now. 116.
Okay, 116. Okay,
I think they could win 120 games.
Can I put
they
5?
won the World Series last year without really cranking the thing up.
Fair.
And now they add like 3 aces and every superstar on the planet. So yeah, man, it's in play.
Can I put $5 down for 121?
Yeah, there's always an exacta to be had, sir.
Is there? Did I lose the window on Carolina making the Sweet 16 at good odds? Has the money come around?
No, you got to
on
get
that?
today though.
All right, I'll fire up the app for the first time in months and see if I do a little $5 gang on that one. Big thanks to our friends at Breeze Through. Check them out online at breezethrough.com. March specials continue on. You're looking for buy one, get one Celsius. You're looking for deals on Zyn. You are looking for cheap Aquafina water. They got you set up. You're headed to the NCAA tournament games at Lenovo Center. Drop on by the Breeze Through to get your goods. Get fired up for some late night action with a Celsius, or just get the sodas you need to tailgate or bring home while you're watching all these games. And of course, they've got gas. Kind of important.
Dodgers to win major league record regular season games plus 750.
Okay.
I just put $35 on it.
Might have to do that. So again, big thanks to Adam and the crew over at Breeze Through. Go support them. They have supported us. Joe Giglio is officially out of hot dogs from the butcher's market, which means he has to buy as many hot dogs as the Dodgers will win this season.
Let's go. I got to restock.
They got to restock because we'll be doing another OG tailgate at a hockey game. So the hot dogs will be out in full force. They got more than hot dogs, though. They have great prepared meals. They got any cut of meat that you want. They got all the things you need to grill now that the temperatures are getting warmer and you're thinking about hitting that back patio. Get it at the Butcher's Market today. Speaking of hanging out on your patio or your deck, the critters are going to be out soon. Mosquitoes will be a menace. They don't have to be, though. Our friends at Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority can help you out with that. Bugsbite.com is the website you can bundle and save. Pay as you go. This is not something that has a long-term contract. Pay as you go when it comes to your mosquito treatments. I think you're going to like them, and you're going to continue with them like we do. So head over to bugsbite.com. And let's say you got your outside taken care of. Sometimes you got to take care of that plumbing. And that's where our friends 1-800-Plumber and Air can help you. 24/7 service, upfront pricing, 1-800-Plumber.com. Air as well. So we're talking plumbing and HVAC. And I cannot stress enough the upfront pricing. The one thing that has always driven me nuts has been surprises when it comes to things like this, because these are not cheap endeavors when we're talking about plumbers and HVAC stuff. You want to know what you're dealing with from the jump so you can make the informed decision. And that's what you're going to get with 1-800-Plumber and Air. So go check them out online, 1-800-Plumber.com, 1-800-Plumber and Air. All right, let's go to the OG sports phone, shall we?
919-444-2211. Call the OG sports phone and curse or don't.
OG Sports Phone brought to you by Nature's Relief. You can check them out online at naturesreliefhempstore.com. That's RELEAF hempstore.com. This is from a 336.
Hey, Joes. I'm sure y'all saw this Barstool, Indiana guy emailed Bubba Cunningham with his grievances about Carolina getting in over Indiana. I was disappointed he left out the fact that Bubba hasn't been trusted to make a football or men's basketball coaching hire since he fumbled Fedora and let him implode. Thanks.
Poor Bubba. But you know what? What you sign up for when you sign up to be on the committee.
That's right.
And you're the head of the committee. This is from a 910.
Hey, Joe. You know what? 3 weeks ago, I would have said with all of the Hubert Davis stuff going on that the answer would have been for Carolina to do what they usually do, what they have to do. The answer for Carolina coaching would have been to go through Lawrence, Kansas. And if you look back on it, the fact that they got Dean Smith out of Kansas, and then he sends Larry Brown to Kansas, and then Dean allows Larry Brown to get Danny Manning out of Greensboro so that they can win that championship in the 80s. And then he sends Roy there to get his feet wet, and then Roy comes back. I would have said that they needed to look at Lawrence. But you know what? Honestly, like if they are going to decide to stick with Hubert for another 3 years and re-sign him, then I'd like to say that maybe the answer for NC State is to do the exact same thing. Do away with all this Will Wade stuff and then look to Lawrence, Kansas. Because I really thought that the answer for Carolina was going to be to go back and in Roy's coaching time there, and we all know that it didn't really work out with Holmes or TB McGrath, wherever they ended up. But maybe, just maybe, the answer that NC State is looking for lies in Kansas. So here's what I want you to do. Go ahead and look up the weather for Sioux Falls, Indiana for the next week. No, I take that back. That's not a real place. Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Yeah, all that crap runs together. Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Look up that weather for the rest of the week and then compare that to Raleigh. And think, why would anybody want to stay in that area? And that's what they need to do. They need to make a phone call to Captain Kirk, Captain America, and pull Kirk Heinrich out of whatever hospital coaching job that he currently has and put him on the sideline with Nick Collison. And just imagine, that's exactly what NC State would want, this setup where Roy has to go into the Lenovo Center wearing a red sweater this time and putting on a Carolina and a Kansas sticker on his shirt again, and have to sit there and watch Kirk coach a winning team. And I think that's what NC State's looking for. Anyway, y'all keep him straight up there. If y'all are going to see Goover later on, you tell him I said, oh, never mind. That's another podcast. Sorry about that. All right, guys. Thank you.
What was that last part?
I don't know.
I'm not going to go back to it because I have more important things to get to.
Woke up this morning, tracked myself a flight. Might get a top candidate if the pizza's right. Wade or Gainey, will it be or somebody new? Here's your chance to make your mark, a coach and search with Boo.
It's not going to be that Kansas crew.
It always makes me wanting more when I hear the jingle. Walk on this morning.
It's not going to be the Kansas crew, right? That the caller suggests.
You know, it's funny, though. Was talking to Josh Goodson this morning.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about Texas. Texas is in the first four. So the current holding pattern that NC State is in is, well, McNeese is playing Clemson in the NCAA tournament. And while some fans are convinced that this thing is already done and Will Wade is on his way to Raleigh, there's still the matter of McNeese having to play a basketball game.
Yeah.
There's also the matter of, like, what are going to be Will Wade's other options?
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny that the person brings up Bill Self in a roundabout way. If Texas loses on Wednesday and they fire their coach, would you call Bill Self if you were Texas?
Yeah.
I think I would.
Yeah.
Do you think Bill Self might be ready to do something else after the last couple of years, after the way he was going through it at the end of this season? I do. But that's neither here nor there. The question becomes, what are Will Wade's choices going to be? And my money people, not just Josh, but my money people are convinced that Will Wade is going to be the next coach at NC State. That's what they're convinced.
No offense to Josh, but there's different levels to money people.
But sure, but you're saying being slightly disrespectful of the way that these things work now with the Wolfpack Club and the collectives.
But Josh also knows that when it comes
involved.
to him, I'm going to be disrespectful.
Sure.
So,
but those, again, at that level, the Wolfpack Club, the collective, all that, they're very convinced that Will Wade is going to be the next coach at NC State.
Until I hear Josh Goodson's name bantied about like Wendell Murphy and
I'm not saying he's
who's
that
this other guy. Who's the new guy? Who's the textile king?
Brian McMurray.
Brian McMurray.
Yeah.
Until I hear Goodson thrown around there, man. Nah.
Yeah,
I'm not buying it.
Okay.
I want to see him sitting. I want to see Josh in a leather jacket sitting courtside.
Is it leather or it's pigskin?
Or whatever it might. Is it pigskin? I have no
It's
idea.
gotta be, right?
With Josh, I basically want it made out of closing documents. That's all I want.
There you go.
A suit made of that. That's what I want.
So while NC State waits, what I'm getting at is if Texas fires their coach, there's kind of this assumption, oh man, Texas is going to hire Will Wade. Well, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
You know, then Indiana, nobody really knows what is going on in Indiana. But if they do hire Brad Brownell, which I would be surprised, then you're Will Wade. You went to Clemson. You probably have an affinity for your alma mater, like most people do. And who knows? So the wait is on, but the wait for Wade is on. So we'll see what they do. We'll see how this thing plays out.
All right, this is from a 919.
Hi, this is Mike from Goldsboro. Look, this is such nonsense. This is such nonsense that they put these Tar Heel team in this tournament. When you have a team like West Virginia left out that beat West Virginia beat Kansas, West Virginia beat Arizona, West Virginia beat Gonzaga, West Virginia beat Iowa State. West Virginia had 6 wins against quad ones, which we were told all year. That's what really matters. That's what we're really trying to keep up with. Quad ones. And then in the end, it was Bubba Cunningham. I've never seen a committee show where the chairman has got a right-hand man sitting there next to him. It's just all wrong. It's all wrong. And it's a shame. It's an absolute shame. And West Virginia should be furious. Bye.
Specifically,
they definitely are furious.
Clearly, the governor is. Specifically to the Bubba thing, man. I was listening to Matt Norlander talk about this on Ion College Basketball, and he said he knew something was up when he was told that both Bubba Cunningham and the vice chair would be made available together. Like, And that's when he knew something was going on. And I'm like, and I texted Matt, why do you assume that they were going to get in? Because he still has to talk about Carolina possibly not getting in. And he can't talk about Carolina not getting in as the committee chair. It goes both ways. It's not one or the other. Well, if they brought Vince Gill out, I'm sorry, Keith Gill, not Vince Gill. Not Vince Gill.
Sam Hartman.
We should probably just end the show there. Honestly, we'll be back at it tonight. Got a new one. Got a new one to add to the list. All right, to wrap my point before we shut it down.
Is it some black man? The whitest possible man. Is he in these countries?
I mean,
got me the way that it did. But it did.
to wrap my point, because we can't keep going like this. Bubba Cunningham gets a bonus if Carolina gets in. All right. Well, why did this not apply in 2023? Am I missing? Bubba was on the committee in 2023, right?
Did not get in.
Then Carolina didn't get in, right?
Did not. On the committee did not get in.
Huh. All right. So you'd think, oh, well, he's going to get paid. All right. Well, how come it didn't work in 2023? Yeah. And it only works now. Okay. There's that. And then, yes, don't just assume because Keith Gill was out there. I didn't call him Keith Sweat.
Might have been better.
Called him Vince Gill. Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for this show. We'll see y'all tomorrow. We'll see you tonight.
See you tonight.
For those plucky Tar Heels.